Why, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. My name is DB333, and welcome back to Hearts Round 4 New Order Last Days of Europe as Sergei Taboritsky's Holy Russian Empire, or the West Russian Regency. And now, last time we hopped in to Mr. Taboritsky's Russia, we worked on our economy, started implementing a virtuous education system, and began working on cleansing Russia from the parasites that live within it in order to make Russia properly safe for our Tsarevich when he returns. We're currently working on reforming the Okhrana right now, and we are currently on the second hour, slowly slipping forward, pacing it out as best as we can. Uh-oh, that's interesting. Did they submitted back freely, which is interesting. They're still on War Plan A. I'm wondering for how much longer they'll be able to do it. So we founded the Okhrana. For now, we'll go with what we want to go with. Let's get eyes in every house. Tragically, few Russians understand the importance or even the nature of the region's holy work. Unwittingly inspired by the Jewish enemy, they shy away from God's light and conceal their secrets behind a veil of lies. There, away from sight, they fester and rot, spreading a foul contagion that poisons the very soul of Russia. Fortunately, there remains a sliver of light in even the most benign souls. With a clink of coins and the click of a cocked gun, the people of Russia can be lured or nudged onto the correct path. With a little persistence, all the dark secrets of Oli shall be revealed, and the region's faithful servants will see them expunged. There we go. Cameron was a former NKVD man, but whatever loyalty he had to the Red Flag died with the Union. After 20 years of socialism, what had Russia to show for it? Backwards industry, a feeble government, and a military that could barely handle a few Finnish peasants. He was a rational fella. He'd studied history, seen through the communist myth that obscured the truth of monarchism. It was for that the precise reason that he received the regent's sacred trust, and now stood before a row of fresh Okhrana recruits, his recruits, awaiting their first assignment. He stepped forward and handed him a small slip of paper to the first man in line. The wife first. The man's face remained blank as he nodded, took the order, and departed. Kamarov moved along the line, passing out the death sentences one at a time. Just for children, so they get the message. The other ones are hearsay, so burn the place down when you're done. Hang this one, publicly. Find a lamppost or something. These three are all in the same hostel, so you can do it by yourself. When all the officers had departed, Kamarov produced a final death sentence and smiled as he reread it in the dim lamplight. It was going to be a very productive and enjoyable night. It's wonderful when your job is also your hobby. 10 political power. Very nice. We're going to get our eyes in every house. That's a nice house for Russian peasants. I like what they're doing with that. I gotta say, these focus tree icons are fucking metal. They are sweet. What they describe is fucking horrific. I mean, based, excuse me. But they are just incredible. Look at them. I mean, look at this one. That is cool. That one, oh my god. Man, I'm gonna have to share this. Probably on my Discord. It's sick. It really is. Well, let's hold off on considering our destiny for now. Because when we slow it down, if we slow it down, it might stop the clock altogether for a bit. And if that happens, what did they do? Yeah, they did Good Friday. Yep, standing still in the moment. Don't know whether it's the right thing for Amanda. Esper heard the woman sigh. The right thing? Genya, haven't you seen what they're doing? And that was just a boy with a couple of extra toes. Grisha will be found the moment he's asked to speak in school. I won't let our boy die, just because he's a bit slow. The man spoke again, perhaps a bit humbled. Anna, yes, I know we can't let them find out about him, but we could just, well, not send him to school. People must have taught their children themselves all the time not so long ago. How hard can it be? What about when we're gone? He can't live without us, Genya. The floorboards creaked under Esfer's feet. The voices stopped. She froze, not even daring to breathe. Grisha? Is that you, love? Thinking quickly, Esfer clicked off a tape recorder and slipped it into the pocket of her dresser gown before gently opening the couple's door. It's just me, Mommy, she said, her face concealed in the darkness of a hallway. I had a bad dream. Can I sleep with you and Daddy? Of course you can, honey, said Gennady, his smile visible in the moonlight. Come in. Esper closed the door behind her and slipped off her gown, placing it at the foot of the bed before climbing in between her parents and curling up. You'll have to learn to face your fears sooner or later, Esfer, her mother chided as she rolled over to face her. Tenna's too old to be hiding away with us, don't you think? Esfer said nothing. She simply closed her eyes and thought of how much easier life would be for her parents without Grisha weighing them down. From the mouths of babes. 1 manpower lost, 5 political power gained. What do we want? Let's start a confiscation economy. There are many in Russia who never deserved to be wealthy. Scheming Jews who plied the wicked trade of money-lending. Steppe-dwelling barbarians who pillaged their homes. Uppity peasants who forgot their place in society. These parasites, and any other of their like, will no longer be permitted to hoard their ill-gotten gains while the empire is left wanting. Their property is now God's, and therefore the regent's. It shall finally be put to good use, fueling the reconstruction of a pure, holy Russia, while the thieves and subhumans of the world do their penance in mines and factories. So we'll get exploitative taxation, 50% political power gain, hit, a massive hit to stab, construction speed cut, factory output cut, dockyard output cut, but we get a lot of money! So it's kind of based. I fucking love taxes. From Vyatka, you say? That's cute, but we don't need any Vyatkins. And we'll just keep him in Western Russian Regency. The clock speeds up. Let us consider our destiny. And then let us get a trustworthy court. Every czar must have his court, so must regents, logically. We have accumulated a vast number of devoted followers over decades, from wizened white emigres to youthful radicals bursting with vigor. The true path illuminated so many years ago by Regent Taboritsky is now walked by thousands of the faithful. Yet, the situation is not as it should be. We have heard disturbing rumors from our little birds who keep watch on the ambitious and the powerful. It seems that certain inclinations have begun to take root recently. Inclinations towards dissent, heresy, even treachery. Unfortunate but villainous courtiers have ever been the lot of good-hearted rulers. Adjustments shall be made so that Tsarevich Alexei will never face such a threat. Once the face of traitors becomes known, fear shall permanently cow those who aspire to follow in their footsteps. Whereas I reigned over many nations, and had brought all the world under my domain, I was not willing to abuse the greatness of my power, but to govern my subjects with clemency and lenity, that they might live quietly without any terror, and might enjoy peace, which is desired by all men. Esther 13:2. Sturmoviki performance is faltering. They've reported only 3,482 confirmed kills in the past month. One knows through the numbers that one seeks amidst the sky that there remain many more undesirables yet to be removed. That Tsarevich Alexei's foremost defenders have become so indolent and ineffective is most concerning. Spare the rot, spoil the child, so it is often said. And are we not all God's children? Disciplinary measures will be intensified and carried out more regularly. Decimation comes to mind. Civilian anti-Jew measures have been more fruitful. Promises of financial rewards are the powerful incentive. German methods at work once more. Effective as ever. The search for Tsarevich Alexei proceeds as usual. Leads are scarce. Only I can perceive the sky, and it's difficult to communicate its message to lesser men. Still, hope still lives. My hand is steady, my mind is intact. I am not insane. God the designer, his mechanism beckon. This clock slows down. Standing still in the moment, there we go. The race for the Urals, huh? I know what I'm gonna do. We're launching a military intervention. I'm sure this won't end horribly for us. See, how many troops do they have right now? 26 to 29, so about the same amount. It's just, we'll start training a few more men. Go from there. I don't know. This looks like a weak-willed man to me. So I think we'll be able to just take him over without much resistance. Now the fall of the favorite. The regent walks in Christ's footsteps, lighting the way for Russia to follow. He is no messiah, but he does strive to emulate one. It's not surprising, then, that another man would strive to emulate Judas. Pyotr Shabelsky-Bork, an old and dear friend, has become a most problematic element in the imperial court. Speaking with a forked tongue of Satan, he has dared to confront the regent with concerns about his increasingly erratic behavior. Could the mechanisms of Beelzebub be any more obvious? This is a prelude to a betrayal most foul. No doubt Shabelsky-Bork already has his 30 pieces of silver. All he needs now is a rope of straw that he might be sent, blue-faced and choking, to the same eternal prison as his infernal master. In his place, a younger, more godly man shall be elevated to become the right hand of the regent. That stability hit will be a bit of a shame, same for political power. But, what are you going to do? Our political power game is very slow right now. but that just comes with territory right now, I guess. Pyotr tried to keep himself from shivering as he stepped into Taboritsky's office and heard the door lock behind him. He was gripping the pocket pistol concealed in his jacket so tightly that the edges were biting into his palm. Taboritsky rose from behind his desk, a smile on his face. It wasn't reflected in his eyes. There, Pyotr could only see a deep well of madness on the verge of brimming over. "Pyotr," said Taboritsky, taking up a pair of filled vodka glasses as he approached. His graceful, measured movements bellied the simmering insanity that Pyotr knew to be within him. "Won't you join me for a drink?" A transparent ploy. Pyotr didn't let his eye contact with Taboritsky drop. He shook his head, too anxious to answer. Taboritsky's smile vanished, replaced with a stone-faced, dead-eyed stare Pyotr had seen in his nightmares. It was the same look that had graced his features when they dispatched Nabokov, the same as when they had first ordered chemical weapons unleashed. Yet, maybe... Eminence. Pyotr began forcing himself to relax slightly. Everything happened at once. Pyotr instinctively jerked backwards. He saw the glasses drop to a shadow on the polished floorboards. Taboritsky seemed to leap forward, the glint of polished steel in his right hand. Pyotr let out a reflexive shout of alarm and tried to draw the pistol from within his jacket pocket, only for it to tumble down with a clatter and a bang to the floor. All he could do was throw his arms outwards towards Taboritsky, catching his knife arm at the wrist. Both men were old, creaking relics of a Russia past, but Pyotr was the weaker. Not even a second later, he felt something give in his elbows, and the knife drew closer. In that instant, what little courage had driven him evaporated, replaced only by gibbering, insensate terror for his life. "Sergei! Sergei! Sergei! Sergei, stop! Stop, please! Just listen to me! Sergei!" Despite his pleas, no hint of mercy appeared in his friend's eyes. The gleaming point drew closer, spurred on by a madman's strength. Pyotr gritted his teeth, eyes bulging as he tried to find some final reserve of strength in his old bones. Then he slipped. Something cold slid between Pyotr's ribs. He fell, first against the wall and then to the floor. As his vision tightened to a tunnel, the last thing he ever saw was the steady spreading pool of his lifeblood, edging towards his old friend's trembling boots. Goodbye, old friend. The clock strikes twice, and the clock speeds up. The clock has struck the third hour, slowly slipping forward. God smiles upon us and grants us his boon. What do we want to work towards? Anything to slow down the clock. There's this. We can take a look at either. Let's take a gander on imperial corporations. Particularly the remnants of the Bolshevik economy we have inherited are nothing short of pathetic. Their obsession with ensuring adherence to their mad ideology only impoverished the people of Russia and made them easy prey for the Germans. Little better was their limited attempts at capitalism in a red guise. Any man of God knows that the capitalists are a threat to the proper hierarchy of a godly society. With the Regent's guidance, such pitfalls will be avoided. Total state control is necessary, but turning God's people against one another will achieve little. Let the nobles have their riches, as they deserve, and remind the common folk of the shared duty of the classes. Let red commissariats and liberal free enterprise give way to the good sense and responsibility of the Imperial Charter Corporation. That is how it always should have been. And Samuel said to all the people, "Surely you see him whom the Lord hath chosen, that there is none like him among all the people." And all the people cried and said, "God save the king." 1 Samuel 10:24. The reorganization of Holy Russia's framework continues apace. Steady progress, no hesitation, no doubling back lest we lose sight of the path. One expected more difficulties than one has thus far encountered. After all, OVRI did not enjoy the same luxuries that Hitler did when the time came to assume power. We had no gullible civilian government that could be swayed to our side, nor did we have a full confidence of a large, revanchist military. The greatest resistance has been from the same expected source. The Reds, who continue to assail us despite their defeat. Seems they have learned some valuable lessons in obstinacy from their venomous masters. No matter how hard one stomps down the boot and grinds them under his heel, they somehow manage to return time and again to torment Russia. The persistence is most concerning. The process of reorganization is only going to intensify with the passage of time. The Regency cannot afford continued assaults on its subjects. The Imperial Army must increase its efforts and smoke out the Jew atheists before they can multiply in numbers. Perhaps some gas. We'll move to the top. How are we doing? We got another 20 days? And then we can invade these guys. Let's do sport weapons. Anti-tank. A wise heart shall acquire knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeketh instruction. Proverbs 18:15. Does the soul reside within the clay of the body, or is there some means by which an immaterial spirit might interfere with flesh? Science has dug deep into the physical nature of humanity, but no answers yet present themselves. When I reside in Berlin, I heard tell of the many developments in psychology and the philosophy of mind, but there's the rub. But there was always a but. The developments were theoretical or speculative or devised by a Jew. I suspect the latter is the case throughout the world of academia. For my part, I would theorize that the question of soul-mind-body interactions is to remain forever unsolved. I have my own idea that the brain contacts some kind of lattice that serves as a conduit for soul's energies, but I can never prove or disprove it. Like those esteemed academics, I can only ponder. The difference between us, of course, is that I would never enter such a passive, layabout profession. Men of letters and wisdom are necessary, but troublesome. The whispers of Zion propaganda echo loudly in the halls of learning. Was it not from academia that Bolshevism first sprang, rather than the proletariat? I worry for the future of Russia's youth. Should we fail to root out the rot before rebuilding our academic tradition? A mind is a terrible thing to waste. Let us consider our destiny. And let the dread and the fear of you be upon all the beasts of the earth, and upon all the fowls of the earth, and all that move upon the earth. All the fishes of the sea are delivered into your hand. Genesis 9:2. Sarvik Alexei, where are you? Blessed child, can you hear my prayers? I have done so much in your name. I have defied the Jews, the Bolsheviks, the forces of hell itself. How many lives, subhumans, traitors, heathens, have I crushed under the iron heel of the Regency? How many sacrifices have I piled upon the altar? I truly do not know. Please, my blessed prince, if you will not hear my voice, then see my words. See them, and know that your people are ready for you. Your throne stands, gilded and draped in purple cloth, for you to assume power and rule Holy Russia in perpetuity. Please don't leave us alone here. Please. Don't let this all be for nothing. The clock slows down. And still slowly slipping forward. 4th hour. The stillness is broken by our ascent. Very well. Let's do the Imperial Army. Now that Western Russia is fully under our authority and our major internal rebels disposed of, we can finally end our reliance on paramilitaries and the barely loyal military remnants of the wretched Republic of Komi. Such rabble are deserving of the Regent's commands. In their place, the Imperial Army will finally return after nearly 50 years of its absence. It will not be quite the same institution. The weaknesses that plagued it and contributed to its many defeats must be excised. There will still be many trials ahead for our reborn empire, and the Imperial Army will be the spine that keeps it standing upright. None shall find them wanting. There we go. Are we close to getting any of our stuff maxed, improved? Agriculture, actually. It's kind of fun. The recent changes in management certainly provided interesting times for the workers of Cheboksary Brickworks. Shortly after the establishment of a regency, the owner, a grouchy old Tartar who had been granted it by the defunct Tartar Republic, had vanished. He was not missed by his predominantly Russian workforce, who never been paid as much as the Tartars in his other factories. Perhaps the authoritarianism of the region wasn't such a terrible thing if they could put more food on the table. Then the pay cuts came. The workers came to the new state-appointed manager to complain, and were heard out. He promised change, that their interests would be taken into consideration. That was more than the old boss had ever granted them. Grousing but satisfied, they returned to their work. The next day, things were indeed quite different. The 2 men who had organized them were gone, and there were 6 armed guards in the factory. The boss had addressed them in the morning, informing them that there was now a fixed quota, and failing to meet it would have consequences. Anatoly disregarded the warning to work at his usual pace, humming all the while. At the end of the day, with only a third of his quota met, he was dragged outside and shot through the head by one of the guards, along with 2 men who'd worked alongside him. The charge for them, of course, was failing to monitor a co-worker correctly. The next day, there were 3 fresh faces in Cheboksary Brickworks, and nobody failed to meet their quota. Godly labor strengthens the soul. The clock slows down. Orenburg in the Euroleague. Still slowly slipping forward. Is that a new flag? I don't know if I've ever seen that flag. I don't know. Melenkov, though. Yeah, of course they went after them. As the war started, it ended. Let's get you all... Hold on. Let's get you all signed on that front line right there. You got some free military factories. Let's get some more guns and some more anti-tank. We have 3 states we can go ahead and integrate, so go ahead and do it. Afanasi regarded his new uniform with a skeptical eye. All black? Sit real cooked down during the summer. Don't complain, replied Polnikov. He was struggling to button up his coat after years of inaction on the border post left him with a beer gut. Besides, it's only dress uniform. If we're ever wearing it somewhere, it'll only be for a parade or whatever. The newly minted corporal wasn't so sure about this. 2 years in the Eurasianist militia, and this was where it left him, to a strange hybrid of an SS and Tsarist uniform that barely fit him, 4 more years of mandatory service, and the prospect of fighting for a leader he didn't even support. He had joined up with Gumilev precisely because he was a Republican and a believer in something new, but here he was in the service of a Nazi and a monarchist. I hate this already, sir. He confessed as he tried once more to pull his undersized boots on. Why didn't we just follow Gimilev's lead and run? Fuck, I remember when we used to fight Taboritsky's boys. And you're really okay with just forgetting those days? I'm a patriot and a believer. If the man in charge is a Russian and a man of God, then I'll fight for him. I respect Gumilev, but he was never going to give Russia what it needed. At the back of the room, behind a row of lockers, Private Medvedev finished jotting down the corporal's words and made for the nearest telephone. That extra stripe didn't belong on the uniform of a traitor. Only men of God may fight for him. You got 3 generals. Very nice. Slowly slipping forward still. Let us venerate the soldiers, get a draft going. Russians. True Russians, not Bolsheviks or heretics, are the mightiest race the world has ever known. As a third Rome, the Russian Empire infused the essence of that glorious civilization into the very bones of its children, and our veins flow the blood of Heraclius, Justinian, and Constantine the Great. No matter how deprived or misfortunate we might be, we will always remain God's chosen warriors and the purest race in all creation. The regent decrees that all good people of Russia be made aware of this fact. War is in our blood. With every able-bodied Russian man dwells the martial might of the Archangel Michael. That will be decisively proven. Even every man capable of firing a gun has to be conscripted and scourged until he finds his fighting spirit. In an ideal world, it would never come to that, but mere propaganda may not be enough. There we go. Let's try to get an encirclement off here. I guess they're just pinned for now, which actually, if we take Orenburg, it's not going to matter too much. Yeah, there we go. So whatever the final casualties, 11k on our end, 22k on their end, however many from the Euro League. Not a bad war overall. Light aircraft. I meant to do light aircraft jet engines. Well, that's an oopsie daisy. I'll just kill someone for it. That seems like what we do roleplay wise. Now this guy's pretty good. Our current guy's a 6 attack general though, so that's great. Where's all of our general gangs? There's Rumian Stev, the poor bastard. This is the Russia he came back to, buddy. I'm sorry. I mean, he wanted to fight for the Tsar. The parade assembled to march down the street of a capital was like nothing that had been seen since the days of the Soviet Union. Every single subject residing there had been summoned from their homes on pain of death to witness it, and with good reason. When the skeptics and dissenters saw what the region they loathed had assembled, their blood ran cold. Tens of thousands of black uniformed men marched in perfect formation down the main avenue towards the regent's palace, their goose-stepping boots beat into a steady tattoo on the cobblestones, like the war drums of heaven. Individual men disappeared under the vast carpet of shiny black helmets, their identities subsumed into a single terrifying whole. Many onlookers found themselves cheering despite their trepidation, swept up by the sublime display of power before them. The soldiers' wake came the vehicles, trucks, half-trucks, IFVs, and tanks, the finest that the Imperial Army could field. The missile launchers and self-propelled guns, the regent's favorites, were given a special place of honor. There was a roar overhead. The people looked up to see a flight of brand-new jet aircraft soar past, trailing vibrant purple smoke. And upon the steps of Regent's Palace, gilded uniform, glimmering in the sunlight, Sergei Taboritsky beheld his legions, and smiled, trembled Zion, in despair. 25,000 manpower. Very nice, especially because we're about to lose 35,000 manpower with that. Let's go with the Epersky Shturmoviki. The sinful people of Russia have been afflicted such by decades of Bolshevik rule, they no longer understand what is best for them. The region's laws are but suggestions to the misguided. The only language most of them are able to comprehend is force. To carry out the solemn duty of impressing the region's divine mandate upon the people, a new army must be raised. There will be no motley band of soldiers, polluted by sin and earthly desires, but an order of the brave, the strong, and the pure. They shall be the region's strong right arm, dispensing justice with bullet and bayonet to the traitors and undesirables within our realm. I'm tired. Had to work for a fair bit of a day. Started out with class. I had yoga today. I have yoga every, Tuesday and Thursday. Ooh. The clock has struck the 4th hour, retreating backwards along its track. I think that means it's going back, right? Stillness is broken by our ascent. I think we'll consider our destiny anyway. And now, let's improve on our knowledge. Loyal, observant watchmen are a blessing to the region, but they are still human, still imperfect. We cannot grow complacent in our trust of them, for the flesh is weak, and the human heart filled to bursting with sin. Only the greatest among us are truly safe from the devil's temptations. But the machine has none of these flaws. Steel, copper, and plastic might corrode, but they will never betray us or fail in their duty. Wiretaps, surveillance cameras, hidden microphones. These marvels of technology will grant the regent a sliver of a lord's own omniscience and omnipresence. So armed, our sacred place is assured. That's a big increase in communist popularity. What the fuck? Let's get a new general. Granatov. Seems like a solid guy. We'll go with him. Give him back! The woman shrieked, grasping and slapping at the Akran officer standing in the doorway. Behind him, Grisha screamed his wordless terror as he dragged outside the hallway to the front door, and the old German trucks outside. Give back my boy! The officer scowled behind his balaclava and shoved it with his PPSH. Enough whining, bitch. Consider yourself lucky we didn't take the other one, too. He's harmless! No, wait, it's a guy. He's harmless! Bellowed her husband, tears flowing down a face-bursting with rage. He never hurt anyone! What do you want with him? Their daughter clung to his leg, her expression blank. She hadn't made a sound since the black uniformed officer had kicked the door 2 minutes prior. He's an animal. A rabid beast. You'd have put him down yourself if you have any fucking decency. You fucking bastard! Roared the husband, making a lunge for the officer. He was met with the wooden stock of the SMG cracking against his nose, breaking it and knocking him to the floor. His wife screamed in distress and rushed to his side. Their daughter moved to kneel dutifully beside him, but remained silent. Change of planes, Yevgeny! Extreme case, looks like. The officer racked the bolt of his PPSH. Understood. Neutralizing suspects. He leveled the weapon, squeezing the trigger, and held it down until the screaming stopped. Without family, who are we? The clock speeds back up. Slowly slips forward. It's only struck the 3rd hour, though. It's gone back. He had to verify that clock, evidently. Anyhow. What have we accomplished here in the West is only the beginning. From this old heartland of the Empire, the light of our Lord and his eternally earthly representative, Tsarevich Alexei, will shine forth. Soon shall illuminate all of Russia, from Malorossiya to Vladivostok. The subhumans will be utterly destroyed, and the pure race never again threatened by their ilk. But not yet. There's so much more to do. So many evils to vanquish and souls to save. Beyond our borders, false claimants to the rulership of Russia set forth their armies to oppose us. Foolishly, they dismiss our claims to divine sponsorship, refusing to even acknowledge the truths of Tsarevich existence. They are wrong, of course, and they will know it once we cast them into hell and establish the eternal, Holy Russian Empire across the entirety of its rightful lands. We all got a bunch of despotists as our heads of government. They're seemingly just kind of going with the fact that we're, this. The streets were quiet, orderly, cold. People silently shuffled along the usual routes to their assigned tasks. Guards stood on every corner and outside every building. glaring upon the masses with rifles shouldered and bayonets polished. The commoners lowered their eyes as they passed the watchmen, never daring to challenge their icy gaze. When men worked, they did so without idle chatter or the relaxed movement of the content. They were rigid, nervous, mechanical. There was no longer room for mistakes. A dropped box, a broken tool, a ward out of line. All were inadmissible errors, remedied with the guilty man's sudden disappearance and replacement by someone more deserving of his role. Dissent was a long-forgotten word. Not even the bravest dared to ask uninvited questions or whisper grim secrets to their families in the dead night. Their crown had made it with it known that anyone, from the lowest worker to nobility, was safe from a knock at the door, and a 5-minute trial ending before a blood-spattered wall. As the regent looked down upon his city from the balcony of his palace, his heart was at last tranquil. The incarnation of the empire was not a decrepit old man, bloated with decay. It was a single glorious machine. A firm hand on the levers, a gentle turning of the dial, and it would move as he willed. As the tales of history unfolded according to God's designs, so too do the cogs of Russia by the regent's hand. The gears keep turning, and the clock speeds up.